Good morning. Today is Wednesday, September 7th, 2022. It is 9 o'clock, and we're pleased to be in Springfield, the home of passionate transportationists. We really enjoy being here and meeting all your people last night. And we go to a lot of different cities, but you got it one with transportation down there. Anyhow, Commission Secretary, would you please call the roll? Present.
Present.
Perfect. Welcome. I have a friendly reminder for all of us present today that we're continuing to provide live stream for these meetings for public view and from their offices and their homes. If you're speaking, please make sure you speak into the microphone and so that all viewers may hear what's being said. We're going to start our meeting today with a brief safety emphasis. Gary McLary, District Safety and Health Manager, is going to provide that for us. Gary.
Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, Director. Good morning, Chief. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Ozarks, home of the Southwest District. We thank you for being here in our community. We would like to start the safety minutes with a short introduction to if we have a fire. This facility does have a sprinkler system. We will not try to fight the fire. We will egress through the door here, immediately turning to your right to a small degree, exiting the building, going out in this horseshoe, and then going north, continuing to the right to a meeting location that is the thoroughfare of this complex, staging there for our initial meeting point. If smoke, fire is coming into that area, we will then, as a group, go around to a safer location, which would be more to the entrance of the facility. For any medical needs, we have two volunteers today. Becky and Eric will volunteer to do CPR. Who would do the mouth-to-mouth?
Commissioner Smith usually has it.
Okay, I'll agree with that. I'll just agree with that, sir. The AED is immediately in the kitchen, which is through this north wall, if AED is needed. In the case of any severe storms today, we have nothing in the forecast. We should be good. And from the standpoint of possible earthquakes, there were tremors in New Madrid this last weekend. So please get underneath a sturdy piece of furniture, and once the tremors are over, evacuate the facility as we noted earlier. Any questions? Thank you.
Thanks, Gary. So I'm pleased to be able to introduce our two newest members of the commission. We have two new commissioners. The governor's appointed Warren Erdman from Kansas City. Warren, wave. And he replaced Tom Waters. And Brian Treese from Columbia has replaced John Briscoe. Welcome, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning. We have a special guest here this morning. Mayor Ken McClure is here. Mayor, welcome. Next, I have a few procedural items to go over. I want to remind everybody that we have a public comment period, and we're pleased to offer this to every Missourian that wants to come before the commission and address any issues. Any of you that would like to address the commission, please sign up before 9:30. A reminder is that you'll have 5 minutes for public comment or 10 minutes per subject. Next, I'll review our abstention process. There are commissioners that, because of land ownership and our business interest, our lawyers may represent clients that may either have some relationship to a matter becoming before the commission and may have potential or actual conflict of interest to be considered or voted upon. The commission member will indicate if he or she chooses to abstain from voting or to recuse themselves from participating in the discussion of the agenda. If an agenda item is divisible by contract, call, project, or the like, a commissioner may specify that particular matter and then still vote on the remaining items. This information has been provided to the commission secretary by letter in advance to this meeting. The commission secretary will duly indicate those extensions and recusals accordingly in the meeting minutes. Madam Secretary, have the necessary letters been provided? Thank you. The first item of business on the agenda today is consideration of minutes for our regular meeting of July 2nd, 2022. Are there any additions or corrections? I'll entertain a motion.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. That motion carries. The next item is consideration of items on our consent agenda. Does anyone need to remove any item of discussion or abstain from an item?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say sign. Next order of business is to receive committee reports. Commissioner Erker and I serve on the audit committee. I'll give today's report, which is that we don't have a report. We will have a meeting on November 22nd. As co-chair of the legislative committee, I'll give today's report. Safety is MoDOT's #1 core value. Therefore, MoDOT is again proposing legislative action to address the dangerous behavior of distracted driving. Missouri's current law, passed in 2009, prohibits drivers 21 years of age and under from using handheld electronic communication devices while texting while driving. MoDOT would like to see the current law expanded to prohibit all drivers from using handheld electronic communication devices. The law change could reduce the number of distracted drivers, providing greater safety for public and private employees who work alongside the roadway. Also provide greater protection for the most vulnerable users of the transportation system, including pedestrians, bicyclists, and motorcyclists. 24 states and the District of Columbia currently prohibit all drivers from using handheld cell phones, and text messaging is banned for all drivers in 48 states and the District of Columbia. Prohibiting these handheld use of these cell phones while driving would help reduce the most common type of distracted driving. During the last 5 years, at least 408 people have been killed in Missouri traffic crashes involving distracted driving. The number is likely higher than that because it's difficult to report for a reporting officer to determine the cell phone was involved in that crash. Much like impaired driving laws, this proposal would help prevent crashes before they happen and provide law enforcement with an effective mechanism for removing these distracted drivers. No law on its own will eliminate all the poor behaviors leading to deadly crashes in Missouri highways. However, sound public policy is part of a comprehensive solution in changing behaviors, and a good law can be especially effective when coupled with public awareness. In the past legislative sessions, MoDOT has and will continue to work a broad coalition of safety partners ranging from automobile manufacturers and hospitals to cell phone providers in pursuit of the passage of this legislation. While this legislation received public hearings in both the House and the Senate in 2022 session, it failed to reach the governor's desk. However, the commission believes it must continue to educate and seek the support of our elected officials to provide greater safety to the traveling public. Also, MoDOT has recently begun working on a comprehensive safety package. This omnibus proposal will include several different safety measures that two different national safety groups, the National Safety Council and advocates of highway and auto safety, have identified as ways to reduce traffic deaths. This safety package will include familiar initiatives such as primary enforcement of the seatbelt, rear-facing booster seat law, open container law, and several safety proposals beyond these. Finally, as a result of Governor Parsons' supply chain task force, which Patrick is co-chair on, the committee recommended 32 different ways Missouri could enhance the state's multimodal freight network as it plays a pivotal role in the national supply chain. Two of these strategic recommendations include the establishment of a state general revenue funds for railroad and rail access projects, and the development of waterways trust fund to allow for multi-fiscal year construction with appropriate state revenues. MoDOT is going to draft these two proposals in a unified piece of legislation for the General Assembly to consider in 2023. Therefore, the department is seeking the Commission's consensus pursuing these legislative proposals and the understanding that these initiatives will be shared with Governor Parson to be considered as part of his legislative agenda for 2023. Other budgetary priorities will be considered in 2023 legislative session will be outlined during the department's budget presentation coming up shortly. Commissioner Smith, Boatwright, and Eckert serve on the Uppers Board. Today, Commissioner Boatwright will provide a report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On August the 16th, the board held a special meeting regarding the adoption of a new rule. Ultimately, this new rule was required by the banking, the bank that Emperor's, ultimately, they're utilizing leverage. So 20% of the fund they're going to borrow against, and the bank, with the existing rules and the existing language within state law, were not clear. So a vote was taken and it passed without the support of this commission and the director to move forward and borrow against up to 20% against the Empress Fund. And the next board meeting will be held September the 22nd, 2022 in Jefferson City. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Boatwright. As chairman, I serve on the Missouri Coalition Roadway Safety Executive Committee, and I'll give you a report today. The Missouri Coalition Roadway Safety Executive Committee will be meeting on September 27 in advance of the 2023-22 Missouri Highway Safety and Traffic Conference. One of the items that we're going to be taking up for consideration is the legislative agenda for the upcoming 2023 session. We'll also be discussing the progress made in areas of seatbelt use, distracted driving, speed, and impaired driving. More than 425 individuals have registered to attend this conference, and it will include subject matter experts from around the state and across the country. In addition to the diverse agenda, we will also be recognizing 11 different individuals and organizations who have made contributions to highway safety in Missouri. I am happy to report that fatalities are down 5% compared to this time last year, and we're hoping for a strong finish. That is my report. The next item on the agenda is the MoDOT Director's Report. Patrick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for being here today. Just want to thank Matt Morrow and the chamber and the whole community here in Springfield. Always welcoming, great partners, advancing the interests of transportation and community development and how they intersect. Sarah Fields with OTO and her great leadership. We really appreciate the partnership, and we always enjoy being here in Springfield. To start the report today, I've asked Assistant Chief Engineer Eric Schrader to announce our newest senior management team member. We're excited about this, and Eric's here to explain the change.
Good morning. Morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Director. Yeah, it's my pleasure this morning to introduce Jericho Holtzclaw as our new Director of Multimodal. As a quick reminder, our multimodal section has aviation, rail, waterways, ports, and transit, so it's a great undertaking. Jericho's been with us almost 20 years now, and has seen tours in the district, in design, in central office, most recently overseeing our motor carrier operations. The other thing you need to know is public service is not only a family tradition, it's also the family line of business. Jerica's father was a longtime resident engineer in south central Missouri along the I-44 corridor. He did a lot of projects. And Jerica has been with us, and her husband is in our maintenance building at Vienna, I believe, right? So join with me in welcoming Jerica to her new role on the management team.
We're going to get a picture with the commission. Jerica, would you like to? Yeah. Chairman, can we get a picture with the
Oh, yeah.
Jerica and the
Yeah.
commission? You know, Jerica's had a habit, Mr. Chairman, of taking on challenging roles in the department and really executing fantastically. She took on a fleet challenge for us a few years ago and really brought a much greater professional management approach to the way we manage and utilize our fleet, saving the department millions of dollars. She's done a terrific job with that. Motor carrier services also, very busy part of the business and enterprise. That little wing of the department nets the state road fund over $100 million a year, and Jerica's managed that very well. Has worked through very significant staffing challenges there with turnover and has done it with grace, and so we're looking forward and excited for her leadership in the multimodal area. And there's just a little bit of money kicking around in multimodal, so there's a lot of challenges there to manage that program and to manage it well, so we're excited about that. This is an extremely busy time of the year for MoDOT. Construction season is in full swing, and we're in the final stretch. We have a record amount of active construction work right now. We have more than 500 active construction projects statewide, which are worth approximately $2 billion. We're also releasing a record number of projects in our monthly lettings. Between now and December, we'll have lettings for almost 220 more projects worth approximately $575 million. Boy, that's news. That's a sweet sound to everybody in terms of getting that work out that the public has been desperately seeking for decades. The passage of the state motor fuel tax increase last year, along with the increases from the federal bipartisan infrastructure law, are creating an opportunity for us to do road and bridge work that has been needed for a long time. It's certainly an exciting time to watch the construction of major projects like the Rocheport Bridge, I-270 North, and the Buck O'Neill Bridge. In addition, we're investing in our rural roads that desperately need attention. Last year and last month, the Commission awarded $115 million in the Governor's Rural Routes Program projects. The first of those projects started last week in the Northwest, and we're excited to hear, working with industry, that there's an estimate of approximately 40% of that road work will be done this construction season. That's the plan. We'll see how the weather holds out for us, but certainly before next June, all of that work will be completed. Our team did a lot of work to get that out, and the construction industry's really picked up with it, and they're running with it. However, you know, with this, we're seeing some troubling trends. As you'll hear from our state design engineer in his monthly letting report, we have a limited number of bidders for our contracts. Competition has gone down quite a lot. We're just averaging now about 2 bids per call, And that has, in past years, been well over 4, sometimes over 5. It's a regional issue that we're experiencing, but it's something we really have to keep an eye on. We have a concerning amount of inflation. Our asphalt prices are up. The projects awarded in last month's meeting were more than $30 million over our program budget. If these trends continue, it will affect our ability to add projects to the program in future years, since the 5-year list of projects is fiscally constrained. For example, we finished fiscal year 2022 with project awards over budget by about 11.3%. That's $139 million. Those costs have to be covered in future years so that we can continue the construction program and meet the commitments that have been made. Per the Commission's direction last fall, we'll be updating the high-priority unfunded needs document over the next few months. Our district staff is working with our regional transportation planning partners on those unfunded project needs. Public meetings for open discussion on the process will occur later this fall. However, the troubling trends of high inflation, project costs, and limited bidders will continue to eat away at the money available for adding more projects to the STIP. You'll see this with the bid prices and where we are with the budget right now. We're approximately 40% over existing budget. We're hoping for that to plateau and then decline in the coming months, and we'll keep that closely monitored. I want to thank Commissioner Ecker for joining me in a visit by Governor Parson to focus on bridge construction projects in Maryville earlier this month. The Route 136 Mozingo Creek and Long Branch bridges were completed this year as part of the $351 million Governor's Focus on Bridge program, which is in progress to repair or replace 250 bridges across the state. See a couple pictures up there. The governor held a news conference August 10th at the site of the Long Branch Bridge, just a day before it reopened to traffic. Governor Parson also visited Kirksville to celebrate a joint project to add a center turn lane on Route 63 to address increased traffic and economic development in the area. It's a $2 million joint effort between the city and MoDOT, which is part of the governor's transportation cost share program, one of the innovative programs that certainly the Springfield area has been very good at taking advantage of over the years. The new round of cost share projects is now accepting applications for the approved $75 million added for this program. The governor's cost share program provides financial assistance to public and private applicants for public road and bridge projects. The program matches up to 50% of the construction contract costs for selected projects, and a greater share for economic impact, up to 100% for about 20% of that program. $15 million is available. Applications can be submitted through September 30. Projects will be selected based on the following criteria: economic impact, transportation need, applicants' share of the total project costs, and project readiness. This is a partnership between the governor, the General Assembly, MoDOT, and the Department of Economic Development, who work together to do that project selection, and it's been very successful in the past, and we're excited for this additional funding. We're going to bring recommendations to the Commission for approval of this next round of projects in early 2023. A highlight of the month of August is always our participation at the Missouri State Fair. Over the 10-day event, more than 40 MoDOT employees staffed the Highway Gardens, along with several other employees and maintenance staff who keep our space an inviting spot for the fairgrounds. You know, I think everybody knows we have air-conditioned bathrooms. That's the big draw. I know everybody wants the little trinkets that we send out, but it's really, we know it, it's the air-conditioned bathrooms. But while people are walking through, we try to give them a safety message, little coloring books for the kids to learn about safety on the roadway so that they can hopefully convince their parents to buckle up their safety belts when they're on their way home, right? So it works really well. It's a fun event, and it's great to see other state partners and the public in one place, excited about the future. The team, you know, they really work hard on all these messages. We also coordinated the space for a human trafficking traveling exhibit. The Truckers Against Traffickers mobile display was on site the last 4 days of the fair, educating people on warning signs to look for and the national number to report suspected trafficking. Really important for people to be aware of. Last month, I told you about an award Missouri has received for a project here in our Southwest District. It seems appropriate to discuss it here today with more detail about the award and to recognize some of the key employees involved in this project. The Interstate 49 Missouri-Arkansas Connector Joint Project with Arkansas DOT officially received the award last week at the Southern Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials annual meeting. It's a subset of AASHTO, the American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials. The project, which was completed and open to traffic last September, won the Quality of Life Community Development in the large project category. As a regional winner, the I-49 Connector Project will now compete for the 2022 Americans Transportation Award Project of the Year. The online voting for the People's Choice Award starts next week. So vote early and often. I don't think they count the IP addresses, and frankly, Georgia has figured that out. So we'll send reminders out. The connector has been in the works for more than 25 years. The final segment measured just 5 miles, though the completed I-49 Missouri-Arkansas connector stretches 290 miles between Kansas City and Fort Smith, Arkansas. It's just one of these examples of, bringing forward things that have been desired for decades that we haven't had the resources to do. It's exciting to have these happen. So many MoDOT Southwest District employees have worked on this project. I'm pleased to recognize 4 employees on behalf of the larger team. Please stand as I call your name so we can recognize you. And I want to acknowledge first Marvin Morris, our area engineer, who is not with us today. He's dealing with you came, wow, you're here. Well wishes to you and your family working through your issues with your son. So thank you for being here and for the work that you did here. Transportation Project Manager Craig Switzer is with us. Craig. Assistant to the resident engineer, Karen Lane. Hey, Karen. And construction inspector, Adam Fields. Adam, this was, boy, I tell you, the A-team on this project. They brought some innovative techniques to getting this done and getting it done in a quick period of time. We had fantastic contractor support the whole time, and this project is well deserving of this award. And we'd love to have it in the in our region of AASHTO, but we'll take it from wherever they can get it. So SASHTO recognized it and won, and we're excited for the work that you did. So congratulations to you. Mr. Chairman, can we take a picture with these fine folks?
I think it's only appropriate.
Great, thank you. Mr. Chairman, I just want to, I'd like to thank you for your leadership on the Missouri Coalition for Roadway Safety, and I think that leadership has really driven us to go beyond what we've done in the past. We have, you mentioned in your legislative report that, you know, when you think about it, year after year, we bring safety policy ideas to the legislative process. And you know, over the years, when you don't have success rolling things through from a policy perspective, sometimes it puts an enterprise on the defensive. It puts us in a position to maybe not strive harder or higher in a pursuit of safety on the roadways for everyone that uses them. And you know, it calls to mind when we're seeking as a primary component of our safety policy a simple texting ban that exists in virtually all states but Missouri. You match that up against 1,000 fatalities a year on our system, and you start breaking that down into 3 per day, more than 3 per day, and you realize how unacceptable that is. And there's no one single cause, and we can't blame the roads, we can't blame people, we can't blame policymakers, we can't blame enforcement, but every piece of that is part of the problem and part of the solution. So without casting blame, I think we have to look reflectively on where we are as a state, and we are 49th in the nation on safety policy countermeasures. I find that shocking, unacceptable, and frankly, I feel that we have been deficient in our pursuit of something more aggressive than just something, one thing. That one thing would be important, but it's nothing compared to what is happening in states all around the country, recognizing that policy and safety go hand in hand, that this is not about individual rights, it's about going home safe every time you travel on the transportation network without fail. And until we get to that point, we're not done. So instead of just looking at one item, which is vitally important and may well be the thing that we attain, is to look at the entirety of the issue. So this omnibus proposal that we're going to bring forward, do we hope that this passes? Of course. Do we look at this realistically and say that maybe what it does is it broadens the public awareness so that policy can move in the right direction, trend in the right direction? That's our goal. But we're bringing forward all of the deficiencies. The National Safety Council report identifies 24 safety policy countermeasures, and we only have 4 of them in our system, and we're pursuing the other 20 in an omnibus bill, because I think anything less is just unacceptable. And I'm really pleased with the team and how they've grabbed onto it. Nicole Hood and your team, John Nelson and others, Jay Wunderlich, our Chief Counsel's office, are really working hard to bring this forward so that we can have legislative language for full debate as we move forward this coming session. It couldn't be more important. It's the top of our list in terms of our mission and our values, and living those values is important, and we should bring that forward with our policy requests in our debates. Likewise, our budget request is not a defensive budget request. It is talking about the needs of the system in a way that brings to bear resources for things that are safety deficiencies. We are asking for your support and approval of things like acknowledging that we have a $700 million deficiency on rail grade crossing safety. And certainly the event earlier this year in Mendon brings that into full focus. So a $50 million budget request out of general revenue, because we can't use the state road fund on those, to bring us into maybe the path toward a 10-year plan of eliminating that problem on our rail system and that type of work. We're also asking for more operating support for our transit providers. so that we can more efficiently move people and support the 34 agencies that are moving between 50 and 70 million rides a year. Instead of just saying a little bit more than last year, we really went out and started to look at what the needs are and to bring those forward. Across the board, we're focused on the expansion of the construction program so that we can build safe projects around the state. We're focused on the safety and operations of the MoDOT team. We're focused on the safety of the traveling public as they travel on this system. And we're focused on the employees of the Department of Transportation who need this commission's support and the public's support to be able to do the job that they do, not only with competitive market pay, but with the right equipment, the right tools, and the support to do things safely in the field. So we have a lot before you today, Mr. Chairman, namely with the budget and the legislative proposals. We appreciate your support and stand ready to execute those things that you approve. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's my report.
Thank you, Patrick. Any comments for Patrick?
I've just got a comment. Mr.
Commissioner
Chairman. I
Smith.
just want to say thank you again to Craig and Marvin and Karen and Adam for being here today to represent the I-49 corridor project. We were able to go down there last September, the whole commission, and saw the whole thing firsthand, and it is a beautiful project. So good luck. Like Patrick said, get those people to vote often. So thank you guys again for being here. Marvin, good to see you, buddy.
Thank you. First meeting, first comment, but I want to applaud the department for taking an aggressive and proactive position regarding Missouri's grade crossing safety program. This is an area that I'm very anxious to be focused on, and I'm very glad that we have the opportunity to request from the legislature additional general revenue to support this critically important safety program to provide grade crossing safety at Missouri's rail highway grade crossings, and I appreciate the leadership on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Herdman. Anyone else? Okay, thank you, Patrick, for your report. Before we proceed, we have another special guest. Sonia Anderson is here, and she represents Senator Roy Blunt's office. Thank you, Sonia, for being here. The next item on the agenda is a non-action item. Steve Campbell, our Southwest District Engineer, will introduce our presenters for today. Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, we have a number of presentations today. The first one will be our Springfield delegation. With us today, we have a combined presentation. We have Matt Morrow right here with Springfield Chamber. We have Brian Weiler with the Director of Aviation for the Springfield Branson National Airport, and Tim Roseberry, Quality of Place Initiatives Driver for the City of Springfield, and Sarah Fields, Executive Director for the OTO.
Welcome.
Thank you, Steve, and thank you, members of the commission, Director McKenna. Grateful for your reference to the partnership that we enjoy here as a community, as a region, with the Department of Transportation and also with the commission, of course. Everything that we do as a community and as a region really has to begin with that concept of partnership and collaboration. And so I'm very, very grateful for the chance to just update you a little bit and introduce some of our partners here to be able to talk about a little bit about the transportation story in Springfield. So on behalf of the Springfield community, welcome. We hope that you had a great evening here last night and continue to enjoy your time here in Springfield. Everything that happens of much consequence, I shared last night, in this community, in this region, happens in partnership. And I think with a subject like transportation, where the demands and the needs are so extensive and dynamic, you have to be thinking about safety, you have to be thinking about economic growth, you have to be thinking about population growth, all the different pieces of that. It means that the partnerships and collaboration become all the more important. So on behalf of the business community, welcome to Springfield. We're very, very glad to have you with us today. I would like to start by just acknowledging the tremendous impact that the passage of Senate Bill 262 will have on our state. And the regional business community, of course, here in the area has advocated for this needed priority for over a decade. And we're very, very pleased to have seen that accomplished in 2021. But it feels as much like a 2022 achievement as it does a 2021 achievement, given the fact that that we do have to work just as hard to keep those resources coming and in place as we did to achieve them in the first place. I want to thank all of the stakeholders and leaders that helped to make this happen. In the Missouri legislature, Governor Mike Parson, Lieutenant Governor Mike Kehoe, business leaders from around the state working together on this key priority, and of course, for the leadership of the Commission and MoDOT on this key issue to get us to this point. This funding is absolutely critical. I know I don't have to tell you that for the future of our state and certainly of this part of the state as well. Never want to miss a chance to acknowledge that and say thank you. Springfield's ongoing partnership with the Commission and with MoDOT those partnerships have built a trusted process that identifies and prioritizes the needs of the region, and we look forward to continuing our work together on future transportation improvement projects. I want to talk just for a moment about our region, just so you have a sense of what the last 3 years have looked like here. Of course, there was something that happened in the last 3 years that if you looked at it individually, you'd see big bumps and valleys in this period. But otherwise, really, if you take a look at the last 3 years, you'll see that the economic strength of the region continues to be very strong and, in fact, outperforming pre-pandemic levels in many, many areas. Let me just kind of walk through a couple of these. Transportation, of course, is key to the success of any growing community, and for Springfield, we consider ourselves in this region to be a prime example of that. Over the last 3 years, our 5-county MSA has experienced growth in population, in the number of people who are employed, and in average annual pay. All are indicators, of course, of a vibrant and growing economy. Our unemployment rate fluctuates monthly, as it does everywhere, but experienced, if you look at those numbers, what you're looking at there is the 2021 combined unemployment of 3.4%, which might be the least relevant number we could give you. As you might recall, unemployment was still relatively high at the beginning of 2021 and very, very low by the end of it. So maybe even better than that is being able to look at where we are right now. Our most recent unemployment number is 2.3%. That was in July, and that was actually up from 1.9% in June. We have significant workforce pressures, as I know all of you do as well. Our population is growing at a rate of about 1% a year. You can kind of do the math there and see that. That's about half of what I would like, but it's also twice the national average, and it's the fastest growing metro in the state of Missouri. So we're pleased with that, and it certainly gives us advantages when we compete for economic investment in our region and our community. We believe all of these factors, when you kind of look at all of these together, of course, I would love to see that labor force continue to grow at an even faster rate. But in comparison with peer communities across the U.S., we're actually beating that curve, and that's really how we're graded. We're graded on a curve compared to other communities, other regions, other parts of the country. And we believe this demonstrates that Springfield and the region here remain an attractive place to live, work, and grow businesses. Next up, I want to share just a little bit about some of the economic development project pipeline that our team works on in partnership with the City of Springfield, Greene County, city utilities, and regional partners throughout a 10-county region here in southwest Missouri. But each year, the Chamber's economic development team leads that partnership that manages competitive projects, and the process by which the site selection consultants and company leaders evaluate a community for business expansion and location is really what determines how many of these we end up winning. The Springfield region's pipeline remains very, very strong. We won't win all of these projects, but there are 34 projects under active management year to date, and we're very eager to win, hopefully a little bit more than our share in that process. This pipeline, I think, demonstrates how our community attracts business across a wide range of industries and why it's so important to continue to invest in those core functions and core services that help them make the decision that we want them to make. So again, that's just a little bit of a high-level view of our economy, our economic development picture here in the region. But I want you to get a picture of the transportation story that our region has to tell. And so to start that off, I'm very glad to introduce Brian Weiler. He is Director of Aviation for the Springfield Branson National Airport to talk about that component of our transportation story. Brian.
Thanks, Matt, and good morning, Commissioners. And echo again, you're welcome to Springfield. It's my honor to appear before you today. And kind of as a side, it's nice to see a lot of old friends. Appreciate that. If you're not familiar with the airport, just a real quick overview. We are the third largest airport in the state of Missouri behind St. Louis and Kansas City International Airports. We have a good mixture of aviation activity with 4 airline partners, American, Delta, United, and Allegiant, with service to 15 direct destinations. We are the proud home of the Missouri National Guard 1107th Unit, which AVCRAD, which does heavy helicopter maintenance for not only Missouri but big Army helicopters. Air cargo, we have nightly UPS and FedEx flights, usually handle about 30 million pounds of cargo per year, and we've got a thriving general aviation community. Like everybody in the world, we were impacted by the pandemic, but I'm happy to report we are bouncing back. A lot of airports are. We're currently back to 97% of pre-pandemic airline passenger levels, hoping to again break 1 million passengers, which we only did the first time in 2018. As far as a regional economic driver, we cover 5 square miles of space. We do have about 2,000 employees that work at the airport on a daily basis through 40 businesses that are located there, and we have an economic impact of over $500 million per year to the regional economy. Kind of some of the highlights and things going on at the airport moving forward. I will stress, a lot of this is the result of direct help from MoDOT, which we very much appreciate. You are a multimodal transportation organization, not just highways, and we are a good illustration of that. 3 quick projects. The first one is a general aviation redevelopment project. We received a grant from your aviation section back in 15. We're able to complete the project in 16. The upper left-hand photo, that is a shot going north from our former airline terminal, looked out over an old fire station, parking lots, foundations. With the grant, we redeveloped 10 acres of property, installed access taxiways, utility worked, and the photo to the upper right, that's what that looks like today. We've developed almost 100,000 square foot of additional hangar space that we could not have done without your help. That project's been very successful. The next one is our ongoing air service marketing program. That is a program that benefits all 9 commercial service airports in the state of Missouri, help us market our services to the general public and make cases to airlines for additional service. We actually did not get funding last year because the program was not generating enough in the Aviation Trust Fund, but I understand those numbers are bouncing back a little bit more this year, so we're hopeful that we're able to get the air service marketing funds again this year. The cargo ramp expansion project, we received a grant from your freight section last year and just wrapped up this project June of this year. We did an expansion of our air cargo ramp that helps us with the growing demand we have in air cargo. Again, nightly UPS and FedEx flights. So again, without MoDOT's direct help in that, you've made an impact at our airport. Kind of moving forward, some things that we're excited about. You may have heard that last December we had a major project. We opened up a new American Airlines maintenance base at the airport in December of 2021. It is a next generation, state-of-the-art, 60,000 square foot, 3-bay Embraer 175 maintenance base. And Embraer 175 is kind of the next generation for a lot of airlines, for regional and also some mainline carriers. And we're very proud of the fact that we're going to be maintaining those aircraft in Springfield, Missouri for decades to come. But I will tell you, through that whole process, like in all areas, what we kept hearing is workforce, workforce, workforce. You've all heard about the pilot shortage. We were very proud of it back in 2017 in partnering with our Ozark Technical Community College. We started a very successful pilot training program that today is up to 10 training aircraft and 70 students actively training to be pilots. On the heels of that, we've been working with OTC again now on a power plant, airframe and power plant mechanic program to train aircraft mechanics. We've received some earmark help from Senator Blunt. State of Missouri and the city of Springfield and Greene County are putting funds in. Right now we're in final design on a 30,000 square foot airframe and power plant mechanic program that we hope to start operation in the fall of 2024. This is to provide good paying jobs for our region, opportunities for our youth, and also help support air service going forward. So very excited about that and the opportunities that lead to that. So again, I want to thank you for what you do for the state and specifically in helping multimodal transportation. That one's a little near and dear to my heart. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tim Rosenberry with the city to talk about quality of place. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Director. It's good to be with you, and it's good for you to be with us. Thank you for coming to Springfield. We're happy to share our city with you. I'm here to share with you a couple initiatives in Springfield that will have long-term impacts, not just in our community, but also in our state. The first one I want to share with you is Grant Avenue Parkway. It's funded largely by a BUILD, now known as RAISE grant from the Federal Highway Administration through MoDOT, and 3 of its 4 objectives go beyond traditional transportation benefits. The idea is to connect 2 of our city attractions, the Wonders of Wildlife National Museum and Aquarium, and downtown Springfield by converting 2 miles of an underused city street into a parkway based on urban parkways from a century ago, like you see in this slide. But it would also have 21st century bike and pedestrian-friendly facilities, traffic calming improvements, utility upgrades, fiber connectivity, and additional crossing and intersection improvements for pedestrian safety and convenience. Grant Avenue Parkway will transform an underused area such as this into this. MoDOT provided guidance to the city of Springfield, including being at our side as we let our first design-build contract, and it was based on MoDOT's process. This project will in many ways be a prototype for future transportation improvements in Springfield, and we are grateful for MoDOT's partnership in this effort. More information about the Grant Avenue Parkway, which is scheduled to be completed in mid-2024, can be found at grantavenueparkway.com. The other initiative that I wanted to share with you is Springfield's once-in-a-generation comprehensive planning effort. This generation's version, known as Forward SGF, involved the active participation of thousands of citizens. Now, these pictures were taken just prior to the onset of the pandemic. This fall, City Council will consider adopting the new comprehensive plan, which identifies these top 10 themes. Half of them, I would say, directly impact Springfield's partnership with MoDOT, and items 6 and 10 especially. It suggests that with so many MoDOT routes inside our city, and with MoDOT's ongoing investments in them, for which we are very, very grateful, that Springfield needs to be a more active partner with MoDOT, and we are making progress on that front. Quality of place is the plan's North Star. These 2 questions that are on this screen will guide Springfield staff in our future collaborations with MoDOT. And finally, and most importantly, I want to thank the district office, the department, and now the commission for the ongoing and, we hope, flourishing partnership between City of Springfield and MoDOT. It's a partnership that benefits not just Springfield, but all Missourians. Now I'm happy to introduce Sarah Fields.
Good morning. Thanks for having us. So when I look at the pretty pictures that Tim just showed us of quality of place and street improvements, I think of safety, right? Those look like safety improvements to me. And so when we look at the needs of that the public express to us, that our data expresses to us, safety is the #1 factor. So while we analyze a lot of data, safety is weighted the highest. So I put a couple of slides up there showing where we are showing safety or congestion problems, and then a slide showing what has been funded in this STIP. So, we've talked a little bit today about what an exciting time it is for this additional funding and how it's been worked into the STIP, and we're very grateful for those projects and the partnership in selecting those. So as we move forward, a lot of the projects that were funded in this STIP are Phase 1 projects, whether it's I-44 or some of the arterials that Tim was speaking about going through town. Funding has been made available for the first phase, but there's additional phases that are needed on all of these projects. And so we've taken a huge step forward in funding these projects, but there's more to be done. And some of those remaining projects look just like the funded projects. Phase 2 of I-44, Phase 2 of the 1344 interchange, those state highways through the city of Springfield and through the city of Republic, where that's our arterial system. We have a lot of pedestrians, we have a lot of intersections, and we have a lot of safety issues. So I wanted to highlight one project that really is making a difference for our communities, and that is the Fix I-44 project. This is the second time we've applied for federal funding, or MoDOT has applied. This round, OTO funded the grant application, but MoDOT worked with us to submit it and, of course, provide a lot of the estimates and the data, and we're very grateful for that and very hopeful that in the next month when they announce awards that this will be on the list. As we understand it, we believe it to be the only application for the multimodal program from Missouri. And we're asking for about $66 million of this $109 million project. So the actual 6 lanes appears in this STIP, as well as Phase 1 of the 1344 interchange. But what isn't covered are the auxiliary lanes, a complete pavement rebuild, pedestrian improvements, a trail underpass, and the future phases of the 1344 interchange. So what we'd like to see is this project done all at once. Instead of in phases like we're forced to do with limited funding, if we could get this additional federal award, we will limit exposure to workers on the roadway, we'll limit inconvenience to the traveling public, and of course save money doing one project altogether. So Director McKenna, I thank you for your support in helping us apply for that. Thank you, Commission, for your support. We're very excited and hopeful for an announcement soon. So in terms of what we're doing for safety, I wanted to highlight a City of Springfield program that they called Springfield Yields, and there's a website. They are tracking pedestrian crashes. They are looking at why they happen, when they happen, what a contributing factor is. And so a lot of these crashes are happening on the state highways, on the MoDOT system. And so one thing we're doing is incorporating safety for bicycle and pedestrian in working with MoDOT to do that in a lot of their projects and prioritizing, of course, the multimodal needs. At OTO, we are going to apply for a Safer Streets for All grant for planning funds to really look at how we can improve incidents on the local network as well. We are looking at a program to partner in filling sidewalk gaps in the system, trying to reduce those mid-block crossings. And then we're also building an off-road trail system to remove pedestrians from the road and onto a separate path off-street. Our goal is to build 45 miles of regional trail by 2045. So we're hopeful that all this in conjunction will really improve safety on our streets. So as we look forward, we're really seeing, of course, as you are, that safety is dominating the discussion, and we're trying to take a multifaceted approach to address those issues that face our region. So we're excited about the growth in population and business and aviation and freight, but also in the terms of the way we're thinking about all of that and the innovation that is expanding our mindsets beyond cars, but to the entire multimodal network. And we wanted to thank you for your investment in our region and your support as we work together, identifying those needs and especially considering safety. But I also wanted to point out and thank our local district. So Steve Campbell and his staff, they are so helpful with their expertise and their knowledge and their partnership in data and expertise in telling us what the issues are and working with us to prioritize and fund our projects. So thank you, Steve. And thanks for giving us some time this morning, and sorry for going over, but some time to provide our insight on how we're looking forward, and we're all available for questions if you have any. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Any questions?
Told you I wouldn't cut you off.
Mr. Chairman, I've got a few
Commissioner
comments.
Boatright, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to thank you for being here this morning. Getting to listen to how you guys have sat down, you've come up with a clear plan. Instead of just going down one path to get to the end road, you've got several different paths to get there. I mean, this type of energy, this type of thought is how you get things done. And Springfield has shown that over the years that you can get things done. So kudos to you, and we appreciate the partnership. Look forward to working with you in the future. And if we could replicate this everywhere, we would be a much more advanced state, and no doubt our growth would be much higher. So thank you for what you do. Really appreciate it. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Boatwright. Patrick?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to point out a couple things. Really appreciate everyone's presentations. They're very helpful and great displays of the partnership that we've been talking about. But I think of any title, Tim, I think I like your title the best of everyone. And you need to exchange, you probably already have, so with Nicole Hood on our team, business cards to start working together, along with Sarah and Nicole work together. We've just put out what is, we're taking this safe systems approach as well, trying to incorporate that into our design standards and the things that we're doing. That's going to take work and time, but it's because it's going to take work and time, we need to start now, right? So we can't do it yesterday. We've got to keep rolling forward. And we're taking this to really try to incorporate these concepts into a structure called SAFER, and the acronym is Safety Assessment for Every Roadway. So I think it fits very nicely with what OTO is doing, and will work in concert to really be asking the right questions at the forefront when we're funding, when we're conceiving and doing visioning for projects, so that they really do incorporate the changes that are occurring with our network users, and they're demanding, and rightfully so, more sophisticated approaches than we've brought them in the past. Those things are going to require investment and commitment, and that's important. I also wanted to point out and thank Sarah and the OTO board. When they talk about the submittal of that infra grant for the Fix I-44 project, they really wanted to accelerate what they were doing, and they needed additional state support to do so, to make the grant more competitive. I would say that their approach to this is the standard that we should be seeking around the state, because what they were willing to do is acknowledge that MoDOT and the commission put all of the money into our program, we allocate it out, and we designate projects. We don't hold back money as a grant opportunity fund. They were willing to identify projects that would become deferred or at risk should we receive this award, therefore truly funding on a state side the state share. And that is a very difficult conversation, or several conversations, right? But we had them, and we found the right path. This is the right way to do it, and we don't see this everywhere. We saw it here. We're really supportive of this grant application. We're hopeful that it is awarded, but it was done the right way from the beginning, and I really I want to commend the whole region, because that was a conversation with leaders around the region to do that, and it's the right way to do things in the public process. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick, and thank you for your presentation. It's wonderful as usual. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is an action item. Actually, it's not. The next item on the agenda is a non-action item. Nicole Hood, State Highway Safety and Traffic Engineer, will introduce our speakers today. Nicole?
Mr. Chairman, I thought, okay. Nicole, you want to kick this one off? That's fine.
You're right.
Good morning, Chairman Brinkman, Commissioners, Director McKenna. I am absolutely thrilled to have the Hands-Free Missouri Coalition here today to do a presentation. As Chairman Brinkman mentioned here in the beginning, distracted driving, it just continues to be a leading cause of so many crashes on our roadways. And so I've been very thankful and just excited to have the Hands-Free Missouri Coalition. They've made a ton of progress over the last couple years in partnership with us. And I'm very hopeful, just moving forward, that we're going to be able to advance some legislation and get something across that finish line. So today we have two wonderful partners here. We have Ron Bench, and he is the founder, and the chairman of the Hands-Free Missouri Coalition. And then we have Angela Nelson, and she's a member of the coalition, and she's representing AAA Missouri. So Ron, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thank you, Nicole. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Director. We started the Missouri Hands-Free Coalition in January of 2020. And that started with a meeting with Nicole Hood, John Nelson, and Mayor Carrie Turgeon from Jefferson City. John and Nicole don't get enough credit for the coalition. That's why I wanted to mention it. They're often behind the scenes, but they've been really great partners in this. We got together and we decided to put out a call to start working together across different groups and different organizations, and we are overwhelmed by the response that we got on this issue of distracted driving. The coalition has grown to about 30 organizations working together and about 50 individuals that participate. We usually have about 30 people on a monthly call that we've been doing for over the last 2 years, and we've divided the coalition into about 3 different work groups. These work groups consist of a lot of people that do data and education, a lot of the statistics that we need, producing videos. You might have seen some of the videos that have been produced. There was one about Randall Siddons and his story. We've also had infographics that we are used to educate people around at the Capitol and at different events. We also have a lobby work group, or people who can go to the Capitol and work there. And then we finally have a victims advocates work group where we have people who have lost loved ones in distracted driving crashes. Our goal is to see all distracted related deaths and injuries end in Missouri. And to do that, we really need to have a law passed that says this is wrong. It sends a strong signal and a strong message to everyone that this is something that we need to work on. This has been a really wonderful project to be a part of, and the collaboration that we have had has just been really great. We have really wonderful partners around the state. I'm very grateful to MoDOT for the support that they have given to this, and that includes Jay and Aaron and Luke at the Capitol and their team, and has been really great. Also, AAA has been a really great partner in this, and with me today is Angela Nelson with AAA, and she's going to talk further.
Good morning, and thank you all for the opportunity to be here. I am Angela Nelson. I'm the Vice President of Government and Public Affairs for AAA Missouri. We talked a little bit this morning about some of the legislative activity that we had on hands-free legislation this past year, and I viewed it as a very positive year. Again, we didn't get the final bill across the finish line, but we did make a lot of progress in terms of educating lawmakers about the need for this type of legislation. And hopefully we're going to head into 2023, build on that momentum, and hopefully get this thing across the finish line. So as we kind of looked at the summer, the Hands-Free Coalition, we talked about, what we should be doing to anticipate and to prepare for the next year. And one of the things that we decided to focus on were trying to learn a little bit more about some of the issues that have been raised as objections by lawmakers. We often get objections about how we don't need any more government interference. It's a privacy issue in the car. Those are very tough ones. We get a lot of questions about what is the real impact? Will we really save lives? Will it really have an impact on insurance? That's kind of, a financial question. But then last, one of the objections we frequently hear is that Missouri already has a law in the books. It's called careless and imprudent. And lawmakers really believe that that takes care of everything and that we don't need to pass another law because we already have careless and imprudent on the books. We knew in talking with people that that is not the answer. Clearly that's not the answer because we're still seeing crashes, we're still seeing fatalities. So one of the things that we did to educate ourselves about this particular objection was to reach out to the Missouri Association of Prosecuting Attorneys. And we asked them if they had someone that specializes in traffic issues, and as it so happens, they do. And her name is Stephanie Watson. and she does specialize in traffic law enforcement. She is a practicing prosecuting attorney, but really goes and works throughout the state, working with other prosecuting attorneys on traffic cases, helping them kind of navigate the system. So we asked her if she would join one of our hands-free calls, talk to us a little bit about the current state of the law in Missouri, and then told her, quite frankly, this is a very significant objection that we receive or hear from lawmakers. Can you tell us why doesn't careless and imprudent work? Why is this not working? So she did. So I was just going to share with you all just a little bit of the insight that we were able to gain from Stephanie, because I think it is very important for us to know, kind of going into something eyes wide open, these are kind of the issues that we need to be aware of. She started off by making a comparison with our DWI laws and noting that when you look at our current laws on drinking or driving while intoxicated, they're very clear and specific, right? They tell you if you do this a second time, if you do this a third time, these things are out there. Compare that to careless and imprudent, where it just says if you were careless and imprudent, here it is. And it never really defines what careless and imprudent is. And what she told us is, from a prosecutor's perspective, really careless and imprudent is just a bucket where a bunch of things get dumped into when they can't figure out what else to charge them with, which I think is kind of what our suspicion was. She said even if you look at careless and imprudent today, it is an infraction. That means that someone's a fine. And she said in dealing with victims or dealing with families that have lost a family member, there is no justice and no satisfaction in someone just getting a ticket. So she cautioned us, very much to be mindful of that fact. She said even if today they were to receive a referral of an incident involving cell phone use, let's say during a fatality accident, they have challenges even in terms of the investigation. These are things, again, just to be mindful of, even if we are successful in passing a law. Obviously, if you have someone who causes a crash and admits that they were on their cell phone, that makes for a very easy prosecution. If you have a witness, a passenger in the car, another driver who witnessed them on their phone immediately prior to the accident, again, that is great evidence. If you get into a situation where someone does not admit being on their cell phone, then we kind of get into a whole new world. Then we're talking about, we have to look at the black boxes in the car, some of the telematics devices, we'd have to look at the cell phones. She said even now with the more sophisticated automobiles, you have those infotainment centers within the cars, and she said a lot of those actually capture a lot of information. But again, here is where she sort of educated us in an area that we did not know. And she said even today, she had a case that someone admitted to being on their cell phone causing an accident. She said, that's obviously a criminal case. You have to go for a preliminary hearing. She said that even in that particular case, they had the admission of the gentleman that caused the accident. They had the cell phone record showing that he was on the phone. They had the black box from the vehicle. They could pin this thing down within 20 to 25 seconds that he was on the phone when the crash happened, 20 to 25 seconds. The judge would not allow that case to go forward, because he said there was not enough of a link to show that cell phone usage, 20 to 25 seconds immediately prior to the crash, actually caused that crash. So that's something, again, just to be very mindful of as we look at this. Just skimming through my notes here, pardon me. And again, one of the things that she really told us to focus on is that we need to stop calling these things accidents. They are crashes. And she said especially when you're dealing with the families or victims of these types of situations, it's actually very offensive for them to hear the word accident. They are a crash. She said, as you look at it again in terms of when these cases can even go to a jury trial, not having a law that specifically says that you shouldn't use your cell phone is extremely problematic. there is something called jury nullification that happens, and that's where a jury member can sit there and look at something and they say, for instance, with this case, well, the law doesn't specifically say you can't use your cell phone. I've used my cell phone. How can I then say that this person is wrong and find them guilty for killing someone for using a cell phone if I've done it myself? Versus if you have a law in the books that says you're not supposed to use your cell phone while driving, the person can look at that and say, well, everyone knew you weren't supposed to use your cell phone while driving. That makes that decision a lot easier. So she said that generally speaking, prosecutors would be very supportive, again, just because they would look at this as more of a clarification to help them actually move these cases forward. So we're going to take that piece of advice back and put together some information that we can share with lawmakers this year, hopefully, again, to get them to understand that if you believe that careless and imprudent is already on the books and you think that it already applies in this circumstance, then what is the harm of adding some clarification so that judges and juries know that's what your intent is? And hopefully that will help us move that along. So with that, I would pause and I would be happy, Mr. Chairman, at the beep to take any questions you all may have.
Mr. Chairman, I just had a comment. Thank you for being here and thank you for your great presentation. I also want to thank you for the event that you had at the Capitol earlier this year that we were able to attend. That was a great event. Really appreciate what you're doing. And I like your optimism that maybe this year we can get it across the finish line, which I hope we can.
Yeah.
And buckle up, phone down.
Buckle up, phone down. That's the word. Yes. Right. Thank you very much. You guys have been great partners with us, and so we just sort of, I think, bounce off of each other, and hopefully we magnify that message, and we'll just keep working at it. We keep trying to be more creative and see if we can find some more angles to where we can move this forward.
That's, and just say last week, AAA, the Highway Patrol, tow truck operators all combined together for really heightened awareness leading into the Labor Day weekend about slow down and move over, that law as well. And it's that type of public awareness that got picked up. They traveled the state. They went from Kansas City to Columbia, then to St. Louis, and we just really appreciate the focus, the effort, and the creativity. So thank you for your partnership, and Ron as well. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Our corporate office was a little surprised with a 3-day or a 3-city media event. That's not something that they were used to, but we think that it worked out very well, Director. We got a lot of press, had attention in all 4 of our major media markets on a very important issue. So again, we're going to try to keep being creative to try to bring our messages out to the public.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nicole?
And for the new commissioners, so Commissioner Treese and Commissioner Erdman, I have buckle up, phone down pins for you. And we can have another conversation about that another time, but I am going to share these pins with you today.
Thank you. Steve, next item, Steve, did I cut you off before? Did you have something else? Okay. Next item on the agenda is an action item. Travis Kester, State Design Engineer, will present the bids for consideration. Travis?
Yeah, Chairman Brinkman, Commissioner, Director McKenna, it's great to be back in Springfield. Nice familiar area, friendly faces, a lot of familiar faces. And today I'm bringing you the results of the August bid opening, where you had 30 bids on 14 calls. And with that, we recommend the following to you today, and that's to recommend all calls to the lowest responsive bidder, except call A04 located in the Northwest District. We recommend rejection of call A04 due to excessive bids per section 102.15 of the standard specifications for highway construction. In addition, the city of St. Peters received 2 bids on July the 14th for a MoDOT cost share project on Route 370. for an interchange ramp at Salt River Road. We also recommend the commission concur in the city's award of this project to the lowest responsive bidder. And those are our recommendations to you today.
Thank you, Travis. Is there any discussion concerning Travis's presentation?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve Travis's recommendation.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion carries. The bid recommendations are approved. Patrick, do you have a comment?
No, sir, I preceded the presentation with my comments in my report. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to observe that I have been very impressed by the amount of work and projects that are being done in a time of high inflation. And it will be a challenge to the department and the commission to continue those projects as inflation continues. And want to thank you for the effort to try and make sure that the increases in inflation have chewed into our future ability. And that'll be something we'll all want to be very mindful of going forward.
Thank you, Commissioner Erdman.
Would you like the budget report?
Oh, yeah, well, give us a update.
I don't know, it's not that pretty, so I don't know, maybe that's why you skipped
I was
over
gonna
it.
gloss
so,
over it.
Yeah, well, there were no focus on bridges for today, so we still have 8 of those to be awarded. But today's awards bring us for a yearly total of 40.6% over budget, or $127 million over budget. That's really the inflation that everyone's been talking about. You know, we're seeing it in all areas, but you know, fuel, asphalt, you know, the major bridges, those are the things, and you know, that 2 bidders per project, that definitely has an effect on prices. So.
Stay the course.
Yeah, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is a non-action item. Kim Hickey, Assistant Human Resources Director, and Kim Larimore, Human Resources Administrator, are presenting today. Kim? And Kim, both Kims.
Kim and Kim. Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Can you get a little closer to that microphone, please?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Director McKenna. It's my pleasure as the Assistant Human Resources Director to present to you today an overview of MoDOT's employee development programs. The Human Resources Division is divided into 5 teams in which provide guidance, counsel, and support to the districts as well as central office. Those teams are Administration, Human Resources Services, Employment, Compensation, and Employee Development. For the purpose of this presentation, we will be focusing on the employee development section. The department needs a trained and engaged workforce to be safe and successful. Employees participate in programs and training for professional and personal development. This development allows for engagement, growth, and advancement. Human Resources Employee Development continues to provide programs and training that help and support and build a successful workforce. I am joined here today with Kim Larimore, our Human Resources Administrator, who will also be co-presenting with me today. Kim also oversees the Human Resources Employee Development team. Let's start with our purpose for the programs we offer to develop our employees. The mission of the Human Resources Employee Development is to strive to create a culture of learning where safety, innovation, and enhanced performance are supported and encouraged in MoDOT's most valuable resources, our people. To fulfill that mission, the Human Resources Employee Development partners with many other division teams to provide and assist with certain development opportunities. The first list of programs cover areas in which staff begin their career and start developing as employees. Let's begin with talking about Gear Up. This is an onboarding training program that is for all newly hired employees to welcome and acclimate them to the MoDOT team. Subjects covered during new employee orientation include our structure, mission, values, safety policies, technical training, benefits, and diversity, amongst many other topics. Next is our core workforce values training. This training is for all new hires and newly hired supervisors or employees new to their supervisory role. Courses cover areas of safety, equal employment opportunity and diversity, drug and alcohol, performance development, and workplace security, just to mention a few. We also require all employees to go through EEO refresher training every 2 years. Next, I will discuss our technical and safety training. With the establishment of safety and emergency management, all aspects of technical and safety training are now administered by this area. Employee development provides support to this team as needed. Technical and safety training is carried out to provide safety standards and awareness, as well as operational and procedural skills. The type of training received is based upon each employee's job title and work location. Subjects covered can be anything from basic safety awareness and precautions in the office, such as slips, trips, and falls, but also includes on-the-job training such as CDL, flagger, advanced work zone, fall protection for maintenance and operations staff. Next, I will discuss the program delivery training. The program delivery training is for our engineering and technician staff. This training is maintained by our design division, and our employee development team provides support as needed. There are hundreds of courses offered within the program's catalogs. Course catalogs cover areas of training for bridge, construction and materials, design, environmental, local program agencies, project managers, right-of-way, and transportation planning. Geometric design and several external civil rights courses for construction and materials have recently been added. Some courses are online, while others are offered in person, depending upon the course. Additionally, the department has had great success with their program delivery webinar series as well. Next is the Professional Development Institute, also known as PDI. This is a self-paced program with 4 levels, allowing for 2 years at each level. It is an online curriculum and in-person discussion series that focuses on soft skills as well as technical development. Employees also receive support and coaching from a program coordinator. We've had a total of 126 employees complete this program since it was established in 2016. Currently, there are 58 employees in this program. Next is our Accelerated PE Cross-Training Program, also known as APEX. This is administered at the district level for graduate engineering employees. This 1-year program is designed to accelerate and maximize the potential of professional engineering employees through customized cross-training development. We've had approximately 30 active employees complete this program since it was established, and 4 employees are currently enrolled. Now I would turn it over to Kim to discuss the additional employee development programs that we offer. Thank you for your time. Kim?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Director McKenna. It's a pleasure to be here with you this morning. As Kim shared the mission of our programs, we will also some of the beginning development training we offer, I will continue to share some additional programs that we have in place to assist with the development of our employees. The next list of programs will cover apprenticeships, on-the-job training, and mentoring. We'll begin with a registered apprenticeship program. This two-year program provides employees with on-the-job training combined with related classroom instructions while earning wages, with a certificate from the program completion from the Missouri Department of Labor. although participants must be in an entry-level position that is registered with the Office of Apprenticeship. Titles currently registered are the Maintenance Worker Series and a few other qualifying job series. To date, we've had 26 staff complete this program. Additionally, recent efforts have been made to encourage more staff to participate in the program due to the benefits to the employee. One of those benefits are for our veterans. Veterans at MoDOT in the program can count their time carrying out on-the-job training to be used towards utilizing their GI Bill. The next program is Signal and Lighting Technician Apprenticeship. This is a fairly new program that was administered at the district level. It was developed to serve as an in-house apprenticeship specifically tailored to train employees to compete for future career opportunities in the traffic signal and lighting technician job series. Successful completion of the program serves as the equivalent to completing the formal post-secondary technical training required to the series minimum qualifications. Currently, there is one employee in the St. Louis office participating in this program since it started in 2021. We've had told by other districts that are planning to begin this process. They're planning to open it up in their area, but there are a few that are still waiting for St. Louis to see how the outcome goes for them before proceeding. Our next is on-the-job learning. This program covers the areas of cross-training, job rotation, and job shadowing. It's enabled employees to develop knowledge, new skills, and gain organizational awareness. The program is informally utilized on an ongoing basis statewide. Next, we'll discuss the College Employment Training, otherwise known as CET. Established this year in April and actually administered by the Equal Opportunity and Diversity Division in collaboration with Human Resources, this program provides an opportunity for qualified college students to obtain job experience related to their fields of study, whether STEM or business-related areas with the department. There have been about 24 applicants express interest in the program, although at this time we are aware of one being hired in the Central District, and we're in the process of hiring a new one at Central Office Information Systems. So hopefully more to come with that program. The next is the mentoring program. It was established in 2005 and also administered by Equal Opportunity and Diversity. This is a self-guided program that assists with career guidance and support through a formal mentorship. So you have a mentor for a mentee. Currently, there are 343 employees participating in this program as mentees and 183 as mentors. Our final list of programs covered are the areas of supervisory and leadership programs. And we'll begin with the Accelerated Leadership Development, also known as ALD. This 2-year program supports the development and growth of employees who show potential and desire to contribute as future senior management team members. We have had 271 active employees complete this program since it was established in 2007, and currently there are 34 employees in the program. Next is the Career Ladder Training. This is a 3-day in-person leadership training that was created to aid in the adjustment from peer to supervisor. The program is available to our maintenance crew leaders. We've had 64 active employees complete this training since it was started in 2011, and this year there's approximately 90 employees that have been trained in that program. Next is High Performance Supervision. This is a 1-week in-person training, provides introduction to supervision to help employees transition into their new supervisory role. We've had about 600 active employees complete this training since it started in 2005. And this year, we've had 42 employees attend that training. Next is the Management Development Institute, known as MDI. This 2-week in-person, high-level management training focuses on managed strategies, teamwork, conflict resolution, along with participants, giving innovative capstone presentations at the end. We've had 441 active employees complete the training since it started in 1997. And this year we had 37 employees attend the training. Finally, we have the Maintenance Leadership Academy, known as MLA. Working in collaboration with the Maintenance Division, this program is utilized to advance and further develop maintenance leaders and crew leaders, maintenance supervisors, and maintenance superintendents. We have had 761 active employees complete this training since it started in 2014. This year, we had 315 employees attend this training. This concludes our presentation on MoDOT's employee development programs. We thank you for your time, and we're more than happy to answer any questions that you all may have.
Thank you, Kim. And Kim, any discussion?
No.
The Kim's presentation?
The Kim's
No questions
presentation.
of the two
Kim
Kims.
squared.
You've got
Two
two
Kim
Kims,
squared.
don't you? So, no questions, but just thank you for your presentation. And it's great to see the variety of personnel and professional opportunities that you provide to our employees. And, you know, our employees are our biggest asset, and it's so important with the job that you all are doing. We really do appreciate it.
We thank you. I also kind of wanted to mention just briefly too, even with the pandemic, we found ways to offer some of this training virtually as well. So
Right.
we have a lot of stuff that's online that we offer to employees, but we were able to change some of those in-person trainings into virtual, so that helped a lot.
We
during
kept
the-
our training moving during the
Yep.
pandemic online.
That's great. That's great. Well, anyway, two Kims, thank you.
Thank
For
you.
your time.
I have a couple comments. You know, this summer I got to go with Ed, and we talked to 147 interns for MoDOT. And one of the things we mentioned was this continuous training, and this will continue to bring professionals into this organization. The other thing I mentioned at a couple of our meetings, and I'd be happy to talk with you afterwards, is there's a program called JAG. It is the governor's and the first lady's 501c3, which they are backing right now, and it is to bring give kids right out of high school an opportunity to have a career. And when you, last month, I think we sat down and had lunch with all the superintendents. A lot of those gentlemen have had a wonderful career here, and they started out of high school.
Right.
And it would seem like you would be the contact with that group. My wife is actually on that, was placed on it by the governor. And so I'd like to talk to you about that. They have 55 or 60 high schools they feed out of all across the state.
Sure.
But great presentation. Keep up the good work.
Thank you so much.
much.
Appreciate it.
Patrick, do you have anything?
No, sir. Thank you.
Somebody put that in meeting minutes twice. Patrick has not had any.
I know, I've just wrote it down.
The next item on the agenda is a non-action item. Steve Campbell, Southwest District Engineers, providing presentation for the Southwest District. Steve?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Director McKenna, Madam Secretary, my name is Steve Campbell. I'm your Southwest District Engineer. Welcome. It's my pleasure to have a few minutes on the agenda to speak to you about some of the neat stuff we have going in the Southwest District. As you'll note from the cover slide, there's a lot of stuff in here that's just pictures of staff, and I'm going to try to pull out some of the neater things we're focusing on. I have to start by talking a little bit about some of the Southwest stats. Really, I think Matt Morrow did probably a better job than I could do talking about the growth, but it's a significant thing that we do look at. It's directly related to a number of things we focus on, that projecting the needs on our system is a big part of our job, and having your finger on the pulse of that and understanding what's next, I think is critical to the success of a district. But as was shared earlier, we do have some of the fastest growing areas in the state, and they're listed there for you. I won't read them to you. But overall, we've got about 1 million, almost 1 million in population, and a very large system at over 1,800 bridges, 6,500 centerline miles. So we've got a lot to take care of. I wanted to start by talking about a few projects. This is our now quote-unquote award-winning Missouri-Arkansas connector. That's pretty cool. So thank you to the director for keying in on some of our teammates in your director's report. But real quickly, it did complete the final 5 lines or 5 miles of Interstate 49 in Missouri. We had a fantastic ceremony on site for a ribbon cutting. It was co-hosted by governors from both states, and many of you, most of you were in attendance, and I think we had a great time. But we're very happy with the project, and we're seeing some real positive impacts on the aging system where that traffic used to be because the traffic volume is significantly reduced. While this one may not rise to the level of the previous project I talked about, it is significant. We do have a number of interstates within Missouri, and we happen to be at the crossroads of a couple major ones here in the Southwest. Truck parking is a big deal. What you're looking at here, and I wish I could zoom in on that, those top 2 pictures on the right, but this was a state patrol way station facility that we converted to some truck parking. And what we provided them with some additional parking. Unfortunately, it's an aggregate surface lot, which led to some problems. You know, you open it and they come, they did, and they showed up and they were kind of pinned in there from every which direction trying to compete for the parking spots. So we challenged the team to come up with some solutions, and what they came up with was that those 2 signs, it's a keep right and it's a diagonal parking with semis. And you know, it almost immediately fixed it. So we were really worried about how we were going to provide them some delineation, because you just can't put pavement markings on aggregate. And I would imagine there's going to be some more of these in the future. But anyway, good solution, proud of the team. Okay, so I wanted to talk just a minute about one of our current design build project. This is our active design build in the Southwest District. This is our Interstate 44 corridor bridge bundle. What that means is the expanse of 44 along with a parallel corridor north and south of Interstate 44. We pulled in a number of bridges in poor condition and put them out to the industry to advance what we're trying to do with our bridge condition. We have way too many bridges in fair and poor condition across the state, and the Southwest is no different. But we have 25 bridges in this contract that we will replace or rehabilitate, and happy to report we're on progress right now. We're going to complete calendar year 2024. I think to date we've got 5 completed as we sit here today, 3 under contract right now in various stages, and 1 more yet to close. Okay, so the next several slides, I'm going to focus on some long and short-term strategies that we're heavily invested in the Southwest District. These are strategies that have come out of conversations at the statewide level on what we need to do locally in each of the districts, as far as it would relate to our affirmative action plans. So this is just stuff that we might key in on a short-term or a long-term goal to increase our ability to retain existing employees, to be a little more attractive and do a better job of recruiting, to combat turnover, et cetera. But this picture, what you're looking at, we went out into the high schools. We saw we had an opportunity that we weren't doing a very good job in. So our Southwest HR team worked very hard, contacted high schools all across the district. We made an attempt to get in 91 high schools this spring in the past year, and just man a table, stand next to the door, talk to kids, tell MoDOT's story, and talk to them about the opportunities that exist here at MoDOT for each and every one of them. We're very unique as an employer in the fact that we can cover skill sets across a very large area with people that have various interests, and I don't know, it was very successful. We took operational staff, we took professional staff, and we tried to appeal to as many people as we could. In the end, we got to 57, so we didn't make our goal, but we'll be back. Okay, this is a picture of the interns that we had in the Southwest District in calendar year 2022. We actually had 14 interns. This was the end of season celebration, intern conversation, whatever you want to call it. We brought them back in after we had sent them an anonymous survey opportunity and asked them a number of questions about their experiences. And then we brought them back in. We just talked to them. Didn't call anybody out, talked to them about what they learned, if we provided a positive experience. It's very important we make a connection with these kids. This is a wonderful program. Thank you. for the support you put behind the intern program. I think it is our best inroad to permanent full-time employees in the professional categories. But anyway, what you're looking at here is a picture. It was a great afternoon. Happy to report that 100% of these students indicated they would recommend MoDOT for an internship to their peer group. Took it one step further, something we didn't do in the past. We turned this, our communication staff turned this into a card. We passed it around the district. We signed the card. We gave it to them when we left. And then, in a little self-serving task, we stuck some business cards in there so they couldn't lose our phone numbers. But anyway, hopefully they call us back. And we did make 2 full-time offers, I believe, out of this 14, and we're hopeful that some of them want to come back next year. Continuing on the employee development side of our affirmative action plan, what you're looking at here, that's our general services manager. That's Aaron Underwood. We developed what we call our career conversations. This is just an attempt to bring us closer together as coworkers within the district. I think we're all somewhat siloed from department to department, and we fail to benefit to the fullest extent by learning and understanding, building relationships with those on the other side of that departmental wall. So we developed this opportunity. It's about a 30-minute conversation. We've got 24 of them on the books. We do one every other month, and we invite our employees to be the keynote speaker and just tell their story. They each have a different story. They each have different things they want to talk about, but his story was achieving a degree while working full-time at MoDOT, and I think there's great value in others having the opportunity to hear about that. But anyway, we've had some really positive feedback. We will continue to do them, and I think we're probably about, I don't know, maybe 10 through the 24 right now. So very neat thing, and I know a lot of the other districts do something similar. This is just what we coined ours. On the bottom of that screen, for the first time, that CE exam study session, that was something that came out of these same conversations. We have a number of engineering graduates that work for us, that come to us in various stages of their professional registration. They may have their FE, they may have their PE, they may have neither, but life gets a hold of them, and they have a lot of pulls on their attention, and we need more of them to obtain their full set of credentials so that they will have an opportunity to compete for the higher level jobs. So we put a concerted effort together, and we found some proctors with our own incumbent employees to lead these sessions. We developed 8 sessions. We brought them together, and I think they spent the first session just kind of talking about the format. The format itself being unfamiliar to these people. They're already anxious. We answered a lot of questions on that, and then they actually set forth some effort working the problems. Number of the people, including Mr. Morris back here, was one of the proctors, and I'm very happy to report that by the time we got to that 8th session, it was a well-oiled machine, and we will certainly do it again. Benefits our employees. Okay, what you're looking at here is a picture of our long-term service award event. This was a long-term tenure type recognition of our employees that achieve a milestone in their career of 20 years or more. We bring them together. We really, it's a very formal event, and it's such a feel-good event. And the employees, of all the things we do within the Southwest District, I think you don't see as many smiles on their faces typically as you do at this one. They just really like it. So my thanks to the commission, to the executive team for continuing to provide us the opportunity to recognize our high-performing long-term service employees in this fashion. I think it's very beneficial. But if you look closely on some of the pictures, you might see we had a keynote speaker that's up there in front of the room, Mr. Greg Smith. Commissioner Smith blessed us with his presence, came down, shared some real positive stuff with the employees, and Greg, I just can't thank you enough. Do appreciate it. It means a lot, and the employees appreciated it too. Some other pictures there in the middle, in the very middle on the bottom, that's a unique picture. That's a father, 35 32-year veteran of service with MoDOT, and his daughter Ashley, who joined us about 2 years ago. So, and there's a husband and wife on the bottom right, both hit their 25-year milestone. But anyway, it's when we talk about atmosphere and culture, I think we mean it, and I think we see it, and I think we live it. Okay, so my last slide, what you're looking at here, this is a before and after picture of the same area. It's kind of bouncing around, but that's the slide. I shared this for a couple of reasons. Number one, Southwest District is no different than so many of the other districts, and that we're faced with a number of these types of unsheltered cleanup camps that we're tasked with cleaning up. And that's fine, but there are some very real impacts to our overall planned work and our operational plan. What you're looking at here was a particular encampment on the north edge of Springfield. Over 1,600 pounds of garbage that our staff had to pick up, and it's not just it's obviously not bagged, and there's a number of hazardous items in there that you have to be careful with. But tremendous amount of work. It took about 2 weeks. You can do the math pretty quick, but that particular camp in of itself is about a 4% hit to our plan from that particular building. And this is just one of many. But when and where we run into one of these, we have a staff member. He's with us today, and we consider him our lead. We don't have an unsheltered camp expert job title here at MoDOT, so we wear another hat, right? That's what we do. But Mr. Mark Lewis, he's our Transportation Management Center manager. He leads the efforts within the Southwest District, and it's his responsibility to coordinate with local resources, with local operational resources, local community resources, local law enforcement resources to oversee the entire cleanup, provide the opportunity to those that are actually in the camp to accept the resources that are available to them within the local community. And ultimately, he's tasked with overseeing the cleanup efforts and doing so in a manner that's consistent with state law and policy and practice. So he does a tremendous effort, and we so appreciate him. But at this time, I think Mark's here, I would like to ask Mr. Lewis to come forward along with his supervisor, Mrs. Stacy Reese, and we're going to recognize Mark. But I have some words that Stacy put together. Mark is our lead coordinator for investigating encampments within the Southwest District. Mark approaches every encampment professionally and takes necessary steps to handle appropriately and respectfully. Not only does he work closely with MoDOT staff, he has developed outstanding working relationships with law enforcement and the local community programs that offer assistance to the individuals in the encampments. This coordinated effort and outreach has helped with numerous locations, including the recent encampment along Route 13. So at this time, and as I conclude my presentation, we would like to recognize Mark with the leadership coin here at MoDOT. So. So, and I guess as I conclude, I just want to reiterate that it's not Mark alone that's doing that work. It's the total team, and we benefit from a number of other people. We just didn't think we could fit that many people into this facility to recognize them. So anyway, but that concludes my report. Thank you for the opportunity. I'll be happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Thank you, Steve. Any comments for Steve?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Treese.
thank you for that update, Steve. I enjoyed visiting with you and Laurel McKean last night, and I know you have, 29 years of service at MoDOT?
Yes,
Laurel
sir.
has 26 years. I appreciate everything you're doing to both recognize and retain our long-term employees, but also everything you're doing to grow and develop that next generation of employees for the innovation that we talked about. So thanks for the great update and everything that you're doing. That innovation and the work you're doing down here shows.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Patrick?
I think Commissioner Treese said it well, but really, the work that Steve's doing in his leadership, he's really taken on this challenge. Being district engineer role in our organization is one of the most complicated and demanding roles in the organization. Doing a great job. Keep it up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just add that we just recently started, I think we all go to work every day and we do our job and we go home and we don't celebrate our successes. I'm glad to see you're doing that. I hope the other districts are going to be doing that too, because that's important. And the continuing ed, again, it's what Ed and I talked to those interns about, some of which were with you. They were at that meeting probably. But it's a great place to work, and we need to get that word out there. Thanks for doing all that.
Couldn't agree more. Thank you. Have a great team.
Next item on the agenda is an action item. Todd Grossberger, Financial Services Director, is presenting the appropriation request. Todd, welcome.
Good morning, Chairman Brinkman, Commissioners, Director McKenna. It's good to be back in Springfield. You know, we're in Jeff City. All we hear about is the Missouri Tigers. Sorry, Ed. You and Rich might want to just for a little while. But down here, it's the Missouri State Bears, isn't it? And oh, by the way, that's where I graduated 30 plus years ago. So I wanted to give them a plug for that. All right. The new commissioner, yeah, I need to get to know you better. You're from Columbia, aren't you? Okay. Chair, Commissioner Smith, I need your help, please. Okay, what are we doing here today? Today we're seeking approval of two appropriation requests, the 2024 appropriation request and the 2023 supplemental appropriations request. The fiscal year 2024 appropriations request for House Bill 4 totals $4.9 billion and is $601 million more than last year's fiscal year 2023 budget. Today's presentation will focus on those items that we're requesting significant increases. We're also requesting $7.7 million for the supplemental fiscal year 2023. These requests do not include a small amount of fringe benefits for Social Security and unemployment benefits that are part of House Bill 5 as required by the Office of Administration. This here gives you kind of an idea of the timeline of how we compile this appropriation request. There in the red is where we are today. But the process started way back in February or March when Financial Services, working with the districts and divisions, started to compile this information. It's required that we submit this by October 1 to the state budget director. And these are the requests that will follow all the way through the legislative process. Once the legislature approves these appropriations, we will come back to you for your approval prior to the fiscal year starting. This here just gives you an idea of the appropriation requests in the different categories. The program delivery of 55% and safety operations 12%, that's where the majority of our money is spent. The refunds and transfers, about 18%. These are transfers that are needed for accounting purposes to move money between funds. Today's request actually is an increase of $100 million for transfers for the additional state motor fuel tax revenue we're getting because of Senate Bill 262. In July, we were able to implement a portion of the market plan within our appropriation authority. We're requesting an additional $15.1 million to fully implement the market plan, which also includes advancing employees through the ranges based on tenure. We're also requesting $3.6 million for 26 positions in program delivery and safety and operations. To be able to partially implement the market plan, 261 positions are being held open. This increase would allow us to fill 10% of these open positions. We're requesting an increase of $24.5 million for our safety and operations budget. This includes $12.5 million to account for the rising price of roadway materials due to inflation, which we've been discussing earlier today. $1.9 million to upgrade or replace non-compliant truck-mounted attenuators or TMAs, and $9.6 million for high-priority safety-related items such as autonomous TMAs, TMA video recording systems, additional TMAs for our existing fleet, and public service announcements to change drivers' behaviors to reduce fatalities. All these items are strategies to help reduce the hazards and risks to our employees, our workers out there doing their job, and the traveling public. One of our biggest increases in the program delivery area, $379 million for contractor payments, right-of-way purchases, and consultant design work. As we've discussed, the department's construction program has increased because of the funding we've been given. We're also requesting $50 million of general revenue to provide matching funds for potential federal discretionary grants. The current Highway Act has many discretionary programs in it, but they require a non-federal match. As the director mentioned earlier, we're all in with our money in our STIP. We don't hold any money back for a potential match for a grant that we might get. Missouri needs a source of funding like this so we can compete against other states for these federal grants. We're requesting a $26.1 million for our fleet facilities and information system budget. This includes $10 million to improve the average age and condition of our fleet, and $4.8 million for asset preservation projects to repair facilities and capital improvements to replace older maintenance buildings. Also, $2 million for information systems to account for rising costs and increased demand for technology solutions. Our information systems budget has remained flat for the last 10 years. Missouri State Transit Assistance Program is one of the smallest state programs in the nation. We're requesting an additional $15.5 million of general revenue to help defray operating and capital costs for public transportation providers across the state. We're requesting $50 million of general revenue for safety improvements to public railroad crossings not on the state highway system. This was also mentioned earlier today. This investment will allow us to complete an equivalent of 6 years' worth of projects and would be even greater if we're able to be successful in obtaining grants from the federal government. Total cost to upgrade all public passive crossings with flashing lights and gates is currently about $700 million. We're also requesting $1.3 million of general revenue to cover the rising costs of providing twice daily passenger rail service between Kansas City and St. Louis. We're asking you to approve these two appropriation requests as stated in your materials. Are there any questions we can address for you?
Any questions for Todd? Mr. Eckert?
Yeah. Thanks for the thorough report, Todd. And I'm pleased to see that there's that additional request in there for helping us get to complete the market adjustment. The one question I had, you know, we got 262, which was a great feat, and we had projections of how much that was going to generate, and we've had it in place about a year, I believe.
Yeah.
Is it meeting our projections?
Yeah, it is. The motor fuel tax is right on with our projections. A little bit, we're a little bit conservative. We're getting a little bit more, but not a whole lot. But yeah, and we've talked about the inflation of projects and this, and that, and the other. Starting tomorrow, we start kicking off the forecast that we'll be bringing to you in January. And I say this every year. It's always it gets complicated, and it's there's a lot of things to throw into it. But we've got some pretty good data on the Senate Bill 262 to project that going forward, where we didn't a year ago. With that and with inflation, pulling that all together, we'll be coming back with the forecast. Can't tell you exactly what that's going to look like, but I can tell you in a few months.
You know, to follow up on that, if I might, so the first fiscal year was fiscal year '22, and it was just a 9-month component. It was just over $50 million in revenue that came in. So if you compare that with the price increases that we had, that I mentioned earlier, of $139 million, we're not quite cast in place even with that revenue increase. So it's not enough to even tackle the inflationary pressures that we have, but we're sure glad that it's in place because it's enabled us to project securing all of the federal resources that we see going forward, with the exception of discretionary grants, and that's the reason for that additional request in the budget of general revenue, to be able to match federal grants and to be an opportunity fund for communities across the state. So thank you for the question, Mr. Eckert.
So with that, Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to approve the appropriation request.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the motion, and all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Todd.
Thank you, sir.
Todd, I have a question for you. This is a little off, but where are we at on motor vehicle sales tax for the year?
Well, that was a unique thing with COVID. Everybody was in your place buying vehicles. But then it kind of tailed off a little bit. We're back kind of to pre-COVID, just a little tick above pre-COVID. So it's kind of settled down a little bit. I do notice on TV we're seeing a lot more 0%, 60, 72 months. That always is a trigger for me that the sales are slowing down a little bit, but not much. That's good. But we'll do a lot of more research on that as we develop the forecast for the next 5-year step.
Just interesting. Didn't mean to throw that on you, but thank you, Todd.
Sure, anytime.
Thank you, Todd. Normally, this is public comment period. We do not have anyone signed up for that. So typically, at the end of each meeting, we like to give each commissioner an opportunity to share their concerns and comments. Today, I'm going to start with the older guys to give the newer guys a break here. So speaking of older guys, Commissioner Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You kind of caught me off guard there. No, I just want to thank Matt, if he's still here or gone, and the Springfield group. You know, this is kind of my part of the country down here in Springfield. This is God country right here in this
We've
Queen
heard,
City of the
yes.
Ozarks. And anyway, I appreciate everybody's hard work. Sarah, it's always good to talk to you. And be sure and don't let Sarah get your phone number, your cell phone, because she will call you guys. But anyway, I always enjoy talking to Sarah. But anyway, just welcome the new guys. You guys we've got a great team here with these MoDOT employees to work with. And I'm telling you, any one of them that you go to and ask anything, they'll get the answer if they don't have it. And I appreciate all of you. So the old guy. Am I really the old guy?
Well, 9 years is.
Anyway, so that's all I have. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Mr.
All right,
Chairman.
thank you, Commissioner Smith. Commissioner Boatright.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. just reflecting back, looking at our history, it seems like as far as infrastructure investment in this country, we're on about a 50-year cycle. So you go back to the 1920s, we didn't have a roadway network in the state. So there was a $60 million bond passed, and that $60 million bond today is about $890 million. And that was passed to put a roadway system in place in this state without really a plan on how to pay for it, which is thinking pretty big. You fast forward to the Eisenhower administration, we put our interstate highway system into place in this country, about 50 years later. And then you fast forward to today, we have another great opportunity to do the same thing. And I think in Missouri, we're well situated to capitalize and really move forward and do some really incredible things. The big takeaway that I have from today is we just need to think big. City of Springfield, the leadership around this community, they think big. And you can look around. I can certainly look around here in Springfield over the last 10 years, and a lot has changed. So we just need to continue to think big and continue to invest in infrastructure, because if you look at those 50-year cycles, I think it's done pretty well for us as a state. So I'll conclude with that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Bowyer. Commissioner Eckert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to start out by just welcoming the new commissioners, Erdman and Trish. Looking forward to working with you. It is a great group. We got a great team here. I want to thank Springfield and all their hospitality for the reception last night. That was a great event. And I also want to thank all the folks from Springfield today that gave us their update in the Southwest District. It's always fun to be in Springfield. Need to get here more often personally, because there's a lot to do here and a lot to see. I want to thank Pam and Jennifer and Lisa for putting together the dinner last night to recognize Tom for his service. Tom's going to be greatly missed, but we did a good job of sending him off last night into retirement. Congratulations to Jericho on her new role. I know you'll do a great job with that. And then on the I-49 corridor, like I think Greg said, we got the chance to go there when we did the ribbon cutting, and I can see why we won some awards. That was a beautiful project down there. Congratulations to Mark for the leadership coin, doing a great job. I know that's got to be a tough job. And then I guess in closing, I want to thank the governor for coming to Northwest Missouri and looking at the bridges that we've done and talking about those projects, and then his leadership in helping get additional money to low-volume roads. Low-volume roads is getting those improved is also a safety aspect. There are areas that I drive on a low-volume road that you literally drive in the road ditch because it's smoother than driving on the road. And the comment I made that day, which was kind of surprising to some, is that, we're all grateful for that, but the calls that I've received because of that funding and those improvements, the ones I've been kind of surprised about is from our employees, because they're excited that they're going to be able to go out on those roads and work on those roads that are going to be in better shape and be able to take care of them better, because they're the ones, if you're out and about, they're the ones that catch the brunt of all the complaints. They're the punching bag, and it's no fault of theirs because they just haven't had the resources. And so they're excited about that because maybe they'll soften some of those blows that they've been getting. And then I also want to thank my fellow commissioners and Patrick for the leadership on getting this market adjustment done. I know you've probably received phone calls like I have of this being appreciative. And I'd have to say, since I've been under 5 years, that's probably the greatest thing we've done. Yeah. And look forward to finishing that up. And closing, I just want to say, buckle up and phone down on your way home. Thanks.
Mr. Erdman, your first opportunity.
Well, thank you, Mr. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First meeting, first orientation. Someone said it's like drinking from a fire hose, but I've learned a lot. The inescapable conclusion conclusion is that we're blessed with a very professional staff that's doing an incredible job. The other inescapable conclusion is that transportation is essential to the people of Missouri and to the state's growth. And the work that our people do here is vitally important to the people of Missouri, and we're here to support them. We're also blessed. We have a lot of new money in transportation, but unfortunately, a lot of it's being chewed up by inflation and retaining our talented workforce. So those will be challenges that we'll be focused on. While we celebrate the ability to match federal funding, we need to be very cognizant that our money is buying less because of inflation, and that will be a challenge as we go forward. And retaining our talented workforce. I think that's critically important to our success. So I'm very proud to be here and want to thank the chairman and the senior members of the commission for their warm welcome, and I look forward to the future. Thank you.
Thank you. You're going to have fun. Count on it. Commissioner Treese.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And look, I just finished my first 24 hours as a new member of the Missouri Highway and Transportation Commission. But for the last 6 years, I've seen what can happen when leaders at the local, state, and federal level work together to make things happen. And literally, when I was mayor of Columbia, we invested in a new generational, once-in-a-lifetime improvement to the Roachport Bridge, or a new airport terminal at Columbia Regional Airport, numerous cost-share agreements. And I hope my service on this commission can inspire other local officials to do the same. And it's great to be in Springfield to see that level of partnership, that level of collaboration, to really extend our precious dollars even further to make sure taxpayers are getting more for what they pay for. And let me join Commissioner Erdman in speaking to our MoDOT employees. Literally every day you remove barriers, you build bridges, you smooth the path for countless Missourians to improve their lives. And I look forward to working and supporting each of you over the next few years in this role. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I just want to congratulate Jericho. You are in the right place at the right time. This is going to be fun with the new cargo boats that we're building, and hopefully get up to Missouri and get to that Herculaneum port. It's going to be fun. And I really want to, I didn't know what AAA did 2 years ago. I thought they fixed tires, but boy, was I shocked. Ms. Nelson being on this safety coalition with them, really eye-opening. 4 of the commissioners, we got to go to the rotunda just recently. There wasn't a dry eye in there. And I want to ask Jay to keep the commissioners apprised of what you're going to be doing over there. We are going to be over there lobbying to continue to keep our 262 money, and we are going to be lobbying to help you with your efforts there too, which coincide with ours. So with that, I will tell you that our next meeting is in St. Louis, and it is on October 5th, 2022. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for being here.